There is a sentence that sounds strange at first. Take pride in failure. Maybe your mind reacts immediately. How can I be proud of something that did not work? From a young age, you are trained to avoid failure. Bad grades are punished. Mistakes are laughed at. People celebrate the winner and quietly forget everyone else. So you learn to associate failure with shame, with humiliation, with the fear of being seen as less than. But here is the problem. If you live only to avoid failure, you also avoid a big part of life. You avoid trying. You avoid learning. You avoid risking your heart and your ideas. And slowly, you begin to avoid yourself. Today, we are going to talk about failure in a way you might not have heard before. We will explore why failure hurts so much, how your relationship with failure is shaping your choices, and how you can begin to see some failures not as stains on your identity, but as evidence that you are actually living, actually trying, actually growing. And if reflections like this help you breathe a little easier inside your own process, take a moment to subscribe to this channel. That simple action supports this work, helps these ideas reach more people, and allows me to keep creating content that respects your humanity, instead of just telling you to never fail and always win. Let us begin with something obvious but often forgotten. Failure is not a personality trait. It is an event. A project ends. A plan collapses. A relationship breaks. An exam is failed. These are events. Your mind, however, likes to turn events into identity. The project failed, so. I am a failure. The relationship ended, so. I am unlovable. The result was not what you hoped, so the story becomes. I am incapable. I am cursed. I always ruin everything. This fusion between event and identity is where the deepest pain of failure usually sits. The event hurts, yes. But the story you attach to it is what keeps the pain alive for months or years. So when we talk about taking pride in failure, we are not saying you should celebrate painful events or pretend they were pleasant. We are talking about something more subtle. Taking pride in the fact that you are willing to risk failure instead of hiding behind safety forever. There's a big difference between two kinds of failure. Failure from avoidance and failure from courage. Failure from avoidance is when things fall apart because you did not show up with honesty, care, or effort. You ignored signs. You broke promises. You sabotaged yourself again and again. When this happens, the most honest reaction is not pride. It is humility. To look at yourself with clarity and say, "Here, I abandoned my own responsibility. I want to understand why, so I can grow." Failure from courage is different. This is the failure that comes because you tried something uncertain. You applied for the job. You shared your work. You opened your heart. You started a project bigger than your comfort zone. You gave what you had at that moment. And still, the result was not what you hoped. This kind of failure is not proof that you are worthless. It is proof that you are alive, that you are participating, not just watching life from a safe distance. This is where taking pride in failure starts to make sense. Not pride in the outcome, but pride in the courage to step into the arena knowing defeat was possible. Think about someone you admire. An artist, an athlete, a thinker, an entrepreneur. You see the highlights, the successful book, the medal, the big speech, the thriving company. What you do not see as easily are the failures behind each success. Rejected manuscripts, lost games, embarrassing attempts, ideas that died quietly. If you listen to their stories, you will notice a pattern. They did not arrive where they are by avoiding failure. They got there by moving through it, again and again. Some of them even speak with a kind of tender pride about their failures. Not because the moments were fun, but because those moments shaped their character in ways success never could. Failure teaches you things that comfort never will. It shows you your limits. It reveals your real motivations. It strips away illusions about how much control you have. It humbles the ego. And if you let it, it opens a deeper compassion for yourself and for others. You start to understand that everyone walking around you is carrying their own catalog of failures they do not show on the surface. So how do you start to take pride in failure instead of drowning in humiliation every time something does not work? Let us talk about 3 shifts in how you relate to failing. First, redefine what it means to fail. Right now, your mind might use a simple formula. If I did not get the result I wanted, I failed. Full stop. But this view is too narrow. Imagine you decide to speak up in a meeting for the first time. Your voice shakes. Your idea is not accepted. By the old definition, this is a failure. But look closer. You broke a pattern of silence. You practiced courage. You gained information about how to communicate more clearly next time. You built a little more tolerance for discomfort. Is that nothing? Or is there a quiet success inside what looks like failure? When you redefine failure not as no result, but as an attempt that did not bring the result I hoped for, but did bring learning, strength, and clarity, then failure starts to look less like a dead end and more like a necessary stage on your path. You can genuinely say, I failed in this attempt, but I am proud I tried, and I am proud of what I am learning from it. Second shift. Separate self-worth from outcome. This is easy to say, hard to feel. When you tie your value as a person to your performance and results, every failure feels like a personal collapse. You did not just lose a game, you became a loser. You did not just miss a target, you became a disappointment. To build a healthier relationship with failure, you need a foundation underneath performance. A quiet recognition that your worth is not up for negotiation every time something goes wrong. This does not mean you stop caring about results. It means you stop using them as a mirror to decide if you deserve respect. One practical way to work with this is to notice how you talk to yourself after failing. If the inner voice says, I am trash, I ruin everything, no one else fails like this, you can gently challenge it. You can respond, I am allowed to be disappointed, but this event does not define my entire value. I am still someone who is learning. I am still capable of growth. At first, this might feel fake. Your brain is used to the old script. But with repetition, you begin to carve a new path. Where failure hurts, but does not destroy your basic sense that you are worthy of being here. Third shift. Honor the failures that came from your courage instead of hiding them like a crime. We often bury our failures because we are afraid of how others will see us. So we pretend we always knew what we were doing. We tell the story of our journey as if it were a smooth line of victories. But there is a powerful dignity in being honest about the times you fell. You do not need to expose yourself to everyone, but you can begin by honoring it inside yourself. You can look back at something that did not work and say, even though this ended badly, I am proud that I dared to move. I am proud that I did not stay in the comfortable but dead space of never trying. In some situations, sharing your failures with someone you trust can also turn shame into connection. When you speak honestly, you might discover that the other person has their own story very similar to yours. Suddenly, failure is no longer a private prison. It becomes a bridge. You do not have to romanticize every failure. Some are brutal: a betrayal, a business collapse, a mistake that hurt someone deeply. Taking pride in failure does not mean pretending those things were good. Sometimes the most mature and honest stance is to say, "This was terrible. I wish it had not happened. But I will not let this failure be the final word on who I am. I will use its pain to grow in responsibility, in humility, and in care." There is another important point. If you are always ashamed of failing, you may start to choose only what feels safe. You stay in environments you have outgrown. You do not share your gifts. You do not ask for more than the bare minimum. Little by little, your life shrinks. Taking pride in failure is also a way of reclaiming your right to live widely. To say, "I accept that if I walk the path that is true for me, I will stumble. But I choose this over a life so controlled that I never discover who I could be." Let us bring this closer to you. Think of one failure that still stings when you remember it. Maybe it was something public. Maybe no one else even knows, but you think about it often. Ask yourself, what did this failure show me about myself, about others, about life? Not what did it prove about my worth, but what did it reveal and teach? Maybe you learned that you tend to ignore red flags. Maybe you discovered a strength you did not know you had in how you survived that season. Maybe it forced you to develop skills or boundaries that you now use every day. Can you acknowledge those things? Can you allow a small sense of pride to coexist with the sadness? Pride that you endured. Pride that you did not stay down forever. Pride that you are still here, still capable of loving, of trying, of choosing. If you look honestly, you might see that some of the qualities you most respect in yourself today were forged in the fire of failures you once hated. Patience, resilience, empathy, discernment. These are rarely born in easy seasons. They grow where things did not go as planned. So, take pride in failure, not in the sense of seeking it for its own sake or ignoring the harm it can cause, but in the sense of honoring the courage to risk it, the honesty to learn from it, and the strength to rise again after it. You are not your failures, but your failures have helped shape who you are becoming. If you can look at them with a bit less hatred and a bit more curiosity, they can stop being ghosts that haunt you and become teachers that walk beside you. In the end, a life without visible failure is usually a life without much depth. It means the risks were always small, the walls were always high, and the true self was never fully put on the line. You deserve more than that. You deserve a life where you tried, you cared, you dared, and yes, you failed sometimes. And through those failures, you grew into someone more real, more awake, and more deeply human than a perfect record could ever make you. Thank you for watching.